And a very, very good happy morning to everybody that is listening to this next chapter of the story that I've gone through. So this is about my nan. She brought me and Richard up with my granddad. It's a slightly different story because Nan. Well, it was circumstances. Okay, so we're now way into our teens. I think I'm 17, 18 at this point. Nan died, I believe, when I was 19. But anybody that's watching this video will realise when you hit a certain age, priorities change. And what I mean by that for me is that I now I'm doing college, university. I'm working part-time at McDonald's. I'm going out a lot with friends. I'm seeing this girl, and that became the most important thing in the world. So my nan suffered. She had my granddad, uncle, and my aunt Sandy. But I think on some level, Nan hid a lot of stuff from me and Richard. I'm assuming it's because of everything that happened in our childhood, but we knew Nan was poorly, but poorly meant she spent more time in bed. The cancer word was never ever brought up. Gets a bit strange later on as we talk about this, because at one point she actually had. So I'll talk about it later. I'm telling you now. My nan had to have a stoma fitted. Still no connection to what that means in my head. It's just that Nan has a stoma. And I'm ashamed to say, I didn't want to bring people back to the house because the thought of that, I'd be embarrassed about people coming back into the house because it had a certain aroma about it that when you were in the house you didn't notice, but when you go out of the house and you come back in, you do notice. So I was worried about people making comments on that. Again, selfish, trying to impress people and maybe suppress some of the things that are going on at the moment. But Nan's very, 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 very strong lady. But I kind of repressed all of that because it was all about me. It was about going out and having fun and living life. And at one point I even left home to move in with a different girl for a little bit who I met at McDonald's. But then that was a disaster. Came home. Richard moved out for a little bit. That was also a disaster. And he came home. So we were living at home and I met a different girl and that was serious. So I spent a lot of time with this other girl rather than being at home. But I remember this one day. It was a day off uni and I was at home and I was gonna obviously day off to do coursework, which I couldn't be bothered with that. So I was playing a very old style Star Trek game on the PC. I mean, I looked at the graphics on YouTube the other day and I thought, how the hell was that cutting edge? But at the time it was cutting edge. It looked brilliant. You waste hours on this game. But I remember that Nan kept asking me for glasses of hot water. So I kept running in glasses of hot water. She wasn't hungry or anything, but I kept running glasses of hot water into the bed and the stoma bin was over in the side and stuff. She never asked for any help with that one, but it was there. So I remember that day, spending the whole day helping Nan and making sure she had what she wanted. Didn't complain about it or anything like that. And I always remember that when Grandad came home that night, she said, "Oh, Rob's been absolutely brilliant. He's got me everything that I've asked him to do." So that was nice. And then things progress and another year goes by. Nan's in and out of hospital. She had to have a very, very big operation, which we were told she might not survive, but she did. Even though I had a girlfriend at the time, she tried to set me up with a nurse, and nurse was a bit fit, really. But I had a girlfriend at the time, so nothing happened there. And then Nan came out a few weeks later. Me and Richard were going to see her absolutely every day. But then I don't know how to explain it, but life returned back to normal. At no point in my head did I think any connection to the C word, to cancer, that Nan's going through that god awful thing. She was, which I found out later, but she was going all through that on her own, but she hid it from me and Richard, which makes me angry when I think about that, because everything she'd done for me and Rich, I would have repaid that in spades, and just made sure that she had a lot more attention than I actually gave her. I wouldn't have gone out as much as I did. I would have stayed there. But this video is getting on. I'm going to tell a story about my birthday, which will always stick in my mind. And it was the first time I knew we wouldn't see Nan again for next birthday or Christmas. So I'll stop this video and I'll go into that one. So speak to you in a bit.